Alright, so this is training log number 28 now, I think. And since doing that psycho weekend of training in the last video, I've been a little bit slack in terms of actually making YouTube content, and I'm actually 2 weeks behind at the moment. So I thought what I'd do is, I'll just go back to a good old-fashioned training log, just a good video of me talking about my training, but I'll cover off on 2 weeks worth of training. That way I'm all up to date. And then the next week, I think I'm doing Sebastian Kienle's Ironman session that he talked about on the How They Train podcast. Week after that, 100k time trial on the bike, and then the week after that, an indoor Ironman. So if I do the 2 week training log now, I'll be all caught up, and then I can get back to making some more fun videos. But I think it'd be good just to do like a good old-fashioned style video, just like when I first started the training log series, where really I just cover off on how my training's going, what I'm working towards, and yeah, we just run through it start to finish. So that's the plan for this video, and basically we're going to start out the day after that psycho weekend of training. So if you didn't watch that video, it was basically like a 10-hour day on the Saturday, and then I think it was a 4 or 5 hour day on the Sunday. I mean, the main things were we did like a 7-hour ride on the Saturday, and then like about 40k of running on the Sunday. So really big weekend, loads of volume. I think that week was 27 hours, which is about 3 or 4 hours bigger than my biggest ever week leading up to that. So we came off a really solid week of training, and that starts us out now. So starting out on the Monday, the first session we did was just 10 400s in the pool, but all at a really easy pace. So having a look at those, it was just 10 400s, averaged 147 per 100, so really slow, really easy. I mean, I say it's slow, but if you look back to the first ever training log I did, the session there was 8x500, so a relatively similar session. And for the 8x500 in the first ever workout of the training log series, I averaged 151 per 100. So the fact that that was, you know, a pretty hard session for me at the time compared to an easy session now where I'm going even faster than what I was doing a hard effort. I mean, obviously the swim is improving quite a bit. So I'm really happy with swim progress. I think if I look back over the whole training log series, run progress is pretty standard. You know, I managed to run a sub 90 half marathon in the Sunshine Coast 70.3. That's probably my best running achievement. And then the bike, I think I'm only just now starting to really feel like, okay, yes, I am getting stronger on the bike. We'll talk about that later in the rest of the video. But yeah, the other session on Monday was just a 90-minute easy ride. So for that one, just on the trainer, nice easy spin, average about 160 watts. And that takes us to Tuesday now. So I have mentioned this a little bit in the last couple of weeks, but previously for pretty much the entire training log series, Tuesday morning would be a gym session. But I'm changing that around now. So instead of going to the gym, it's just gonna be a easy-ish swim where we work on a bit of technique and drills. And I mean, yes, okay, so there's technique and drills in there, but I think the main thing is increasing the frequency of the swim so that I can try and improve my feel for the water and technique. And my rationale behind it is, let's say I go to the pool on Monday and I start to feel like, okay, yes, if I put my hand here, that's slightly working better. Then I have Tuesday off, and when I get back to the pool Wednesday, I've kind of forgotten that feel for the water. So if I add a swim on Tuesday and Thursday, and then I swim Monday to Friday, my theory is that then I'm going to at least compound the improvements when I go back to back to back swims. Even if the Tuesday and Thursday swims are relatively short and relatively easy, I think that's still going to be quite beneficial for me improving the swim, because the most important thing I think for me in the swim is to improve that technique. So the Tuesday swim session, it's a pretty cruisy one. We just go 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 400, 300, 200, 100. So a quick little pyramid up and down, takes you to 2.5 kilometers total. Average pace for those, 139 per 100. So yeah, obviously the 100s and 200s are faster than the others, but just trying to keep it smooth and relaxed throughout. So that's really the key words there, is to just swim with a smooth, efficient stroke, because when I'm going into these sessions, I'm not trying to get any fitter, I'm just trying to get better at swimming technically. So the other session on Tuesday, this one's typically not planned, but my coach and I kind of have this unspoken agreement that, yeah, if you can get in extra volume, get it in. And I was feeling good enough, despite having a really big week the week before, and this week was kind of planned as a recovery week. I still wanted to include some race-specific work, so 3x15 minutes at 220 watts with 5 minutes recovery between each. That's one I've been throwing in quite regularly on the Tuesday lunch sessions, and it's probably my favorite bike session, and it's the one that I think is kind of most effective, because I'm getting repeated exposure to what I'm hoping to be around Ironman race effort, maybe just a little bit above. I mean, if you go off FTP and whatever it is, they say it's like 75% of FTP you're supposed to race an Ironman at, that'd give me like 215 watts. But obviously that's a pretty rough guide. So yeah, 3 by 15 minutes at 220 watts. And I basically never use erg mode on the trainer too, is another thing I should mention. The only time I do use it is the Wednesday strength endurance sessions where I'm trying to hold a low cadence. And I only use it there because it's too hard for me to hold consistent power and hold a low cadence. So yeah, erg mode's only ever on for those strength endurance sessions, but otherwise for a session like 3 by 15 minutes at 220 watts, you could essentially rewrite that for me as 3 by 15 minutes at a medium effort, or 3 by 15 minutes at, you know, close to that aerobic threshold, or 3 by 15 minutes upper aerobic. So that's kind of how I approach it, and then I just use the numbers on the screen next to me as a real guide. So the last session on the Tuesday was just an hour, easy to moderate on the treadmill. So I went on the treadmill. I haven't been doing a lot of treadmill runs lately, but I just wanted to throw one in there this week because it is that recovery week, and I find running on the treadmill really decreases the load when I'm running. Now the really good thing with this one is I was running at about 5:30 pace and my heart rate was quite a bit lower than it typically is. So it was 125 beats per minute. Normally I'd be like 140, maybe even 145 sometimes. A low heart rate, I tend to find a low heart rate is typically a good sign, but I think there is some resources out there that sort of say a low heart rate can just be a sign of fatigue. So not too sure if that's exactly a positive sign or if it just was, you know, I'm really fatigued from the week before, but either way, I felt really comfortable and that run felt super easy. 5:30 per kilometer felt a lot easier than it ever had before. So I finished that one pretty good, and that was the end for Tuesday. Wednesday morning, pretty cruisy swim, just a bit over 3 kilometers with the main set, yeah, 5 by 100 and 8 by 200. So I'll throw the splits up on the screen. But yeah, 10 seconds rest after the 100s and 20 seconds rest after the 200s. The other session on Wednesday, just a 2-hour moderate ride, and I'm pretty happy because average power, 193 watts, and I'm pretty happy with like 193 watts average because it kind of felt the same as 175 watts used to feel, basically, because that's typically what I would do my moderate rides at, like 170, 180 watts. And I think that's just me getting a bit stronger on the bike. Thursday morning, just a nice, easy to moderate run, went out on the road for this one, so 5:17 per kilometer, 143 beats per minute. Nothing too interesting there. The other session on Thursday was just a 2-hour moderate ride, very similar to the Wednesday one. 194 average watts, but yeah, almost the same. Straight off the 2-hour moderate ride Thursday afternoon, and Friday morning we're back on the bike for another 2-hour moderate ride. So this is something that I'm doing, obviously, as you can see, quite consistently. I've increased my midweek rides to be about 2 hours in length, and I think this is the reason why I'm starting to feel stronger on the bike. Look, obviously, the more you train, typically the better you get. So I think just improving my overall volume on the bike is something I'm going to respond to. Now, it's hard to say if, yes, okay, am I the kind of person that responds really well to volume, or is it just the fact that because I came into triathlon relatively new, I haven't even been training for a year now, obviously just if you give me more training I'm going to improve, and you could give me training of any sort of style and either way I'm going to improve in some manner. So it's hard to know if, okay, well, working on this aerobic, moderate, upper aerobic sort of zone, that's the most effective thing for me, or if you could just give me any type of sessions over a long enough period of time and I would have improved just as much. It's hard to answer, but I do feel like I'm responding quite well to an increase in that aerobic intensity, sort of just below or just above that Ironman specific kind of effort. So the things like that 3 by 15 minutes at 220 watts, or like the 2-hour rides at 190-ish watts. Either way, I figure the more I can do, typically the better that is. And the other session on Friday was just about a 5K swim. Again, another sort of pyramid, so I'll put the splits up for those, but yeah, 100, 200, 300, 400, 200, 300, 400, 500, 300, 400, 500, 600, 400, 300, 200, 100 was the set. So Saturday, it was a long ride, but just back to 4 hours this week because it is still, you know, technically that recovery week. So I just did that one on the trainer. I am doing a lot of my riding at the moment on the trainer, and I kind of justify it because I am going to do that indoor Ironman on the 10th of December. So the more training I can do indoors, especially on the bike, the more that'll closely correlate to what I'm sort of training for at the moment. And then I figure after I've done that, I get out on the road a lot more and try and translate the fitness I've built on the trainer into things I can apply on the road. The main thing is just going to be getting the fitness I have on the trainer into the aero position on the road on a bumpy road surface. That's the main thing I'll be focusing on. But yeah, a 4-hour ride, had a few technical issues here. So the first part averaged 186 watts and the second part averaged 193 watts. Yeah, just about that 190-ish watts. Very similar to the 2 hours moderate. I actually wrote here 4 hours total riding, also known as 2x2 hours moderate, because that's basically what's making up a lot of my training, particularly on the bike at the moment, is those 2-hour moderate aerobic sessions. Quick gym session that afternoon, and then we just got the Sunday long run. We're back to this routine 20-mile or 32-kilometer long run. Just gonna try and hit this week in and week out. 32 kilometers, 4:57 per kilometer. The only nutrition I just had a quick black coffee before I ran, so absolutely no nutrition before the run. And then about the 18-kilometer mark, I just went into a petrol station and bought like a bottle of Powerade. So about 35 grams of carbs total, just trying to underfuel myself. And I don't know, I'm no sports scientist, but maybe that'd make me more efficient at burning energy. But yeah, that's it for the first week of training. So that was kind of our recovery week. So total volume, 22 hours, 32 minutes. We had about 15K in the pool, 446K on the bike, and then 55K of running. So look, it's a bigger bike week, but a lot of it's that aerobic intensity. Swim's pretty standard at about 15K, a few easy swims in there though, and the run was down a little bit to 55 kilometers. So like it's a recovery week, but yeah, still fairly decent volume, I would say. And then that takes us into this last week now, which just starts out with, you know, a typical 1 hour easy ride. So yeah, just average 130 watts. I mean, I don't even know why I read the power out here because it's irrelevant. Basically, you just ride really easily, try and pump some blood through the legs for an hour. The other session on the Monday, just a 4.5 kilometer swim, 4.4 kilometers actually, with the main set is just 5 by 800. So this will be interesting actually. Let's check the paces on this one. So we had for the 800s, we had a 1349, 1352, 1346, 1350, and a 1338. So to be honest, that's probably pretty much bang on my Ironman pace actually, within a couple seconds. Tuesday morning, as I said before, just that extra easy swim. So 2.5 kilometers, just some technique and drills things. So just all smooth and relaxed. Tuesday lunch, it's gonna look pretty identical to last week, 3 by 15 minutes at 220 watts. Already covered off on basically why I'm doing that, but yeah, just some good upper aerobic intensity. And then Tuesday afternoon, we're back on the track. So the first time I've been there in a couple of weeks. And the session for this one, it was 2 1200s, 3 800s, and 3 400s. Quickly, actually, you know what, I'll just put the splits up on the screen so you can see those there. But I tend to aim to do about 30 seconds per 400, so that's about 6 minutes per mile or 3:45 per kilometer, because I figure that's like right on my, you know, VO2 max, real threshold kind of effort. So when I'm trying to work on my top end, I try and keep it at around 3:45 per kilometer. Wednesday morning, just a 5K swim with the main set being 1500, 850s, and then another 1500. And I think I was pretty happy with the paces here. We won't look at anything part of the 1500s. So the first one, we did 24:47, and the next one after that it was about the same. I had to split it up because I had to change lanes halfway through, but that one was 24:45, yep, okay. So that's pretty good. I think my last race at Noosa, which was a 1500 meter swim, I swam 23:45, so it's about 1 minute off my actual 1500 meter race pace. But that's pretty much exactly on what I would hope my Ironman race pace would be in a pool now. So yeah, that's pretty good. It's roughly around that 140 per 100, just a little bit under maybe. So yeah, pretty happy with that. And that's going to be what I'm gonna try and hold for this indoor Ironman in a couple weeks. The Wednesday afternoon ride, and this is a classic one I've been doing for quite a while now. It's 3 by 20 minutes at 260 watts with a cadence of like 60 to 65 RPM. I've pretty much been doing this session ever since the training log started, and this week was the easiest it has ever felt. So it's a session that quite regularly I wouldn't finish, or I'd have to stop halfway through and have like an extended rest, or I had to cut short or lower the intensity, lower the power. This week I got through it quite comfortably. I mean, the first one felt like nothing, second one was sort of a moderate effort, and then the third one was like, okay, yeah, now I'm doing some work. But there was never a stage where I doubted my ability to finish this session just based on how I was feeling. So I got off that one really happy. And this is probably the first time where I thought, okay, I am actually getting stronger on the bike here. And I think it's because I've done a few weeks now at around that 400 to 450 kilometer mark on the bike. And I mean, it might be like a bit of a bias there where I love doing a lot of volume. So when I do a lot of volume, yes, magically that makes me better. But it is the strongest I've ever felt on the bike, and it is coming off the biggest few weeks of volume I've ever done. So that certainly leads me to believe that, yeah, the more I can do on the bike, the better I'm going to become, and I'm going to try and keep my mileage right up on the bike until I'm really confident that I can ride that 5-hour mark for an Ironman. So yeah, Wednesday afternoon's a 2-hour ride, Thursday morning back on the bike for another 2 hours, and this is just that 2-hour moderate session. So average 192 watts, nothing too particular there, just pretty cruisy riding for 2 hours, but I think this is what's making me a lot stronger on the bike at the moment. The Thursday lunch session, a fairly decent swim, 20 by 100 leaving on 145. So pretty much every time I've been swimming, I would always do 100s leaving on 2 minutes. So to be able to decrease that now to 145 and still hold a 139 average, actually it might have been a bit quicker than that because 139 average takes into account the warm up and the cool down. So yeah, that's pretty good because I was only getting a few seconds rest in between each, and I'm sort of keeping it around that goal Ironman pace. So fairly happy with that swim, 2.4 kilometers total. And then the last session on the Thursday, we just had that longer run workout I do. So it's 30 minutes moderate, 3 by 4 minutes medium, and then 4 by 1 minute mad. So medium being like your upper aerobic, mad being like probably a threshold or VO2 max, and then moderate's just your zone 2 aerobic session. So yeah, totals out at about 18 kilometers, 5 minutes per kilometer, 145 beats per minute heart rate. And then we've got a bike session on Friday morning. So this one here, I'll probably just put a photo up of the actual session because it was, essentially it's a lot of efforts just above Ironman power, but kind of some complicated ones where we do like a few minutes above, a few minutes below. But yeah, 2 hours of total riding, and I think this is another one of those workouts that I'm like, okay, this is what I want to be doing a lot more of in the lead up to an Ironman, so I was really happy to get this one done. The Friday lunch swim, we swam that one in a 25-meter short course pool, so the paces were quite a bit quicker than normal. It was just a school water polo match on in the 50-meter pool, so splits are a bit quicker. I mean, for all the Americans out there that only ever swim in a 25-meter or 25-yard pool, like that's crazy because I jump in there and it's like you're doing constant tumble turns the entire time. But either way, 4K, main set being 2 rounds of 400, 4 by 100, 2 by 200, 6 by 50. So some smaller efforts there, and that's what brought the average pace up to like 133 per 100. But I'll put the splits up so you can see those. And then just the Saturday long ride, this was planned as 6 hours, but I was away for the weekend with Lauren, so I didn't want to spend all day on the bike, so I just cut that one down to 4 hours. Average like, yeah, 185, 190-ish watts, just indoors on the trainer. Nothing too impressive there, and then that takes us to the last workout of the week. Well, second last workout of the week actually. It's a long run, 33 kilometers, so a little over 20 miles, 4:59 per kilometer. A little bit of a pace build where we just started it out at like a little above 5 minutes per kilometer, and then the last one we just finished it off at about 4:50 per kilometer. So just building up to that. But yeah, felt pretty good throughout that one. And then now the last session of the week, just adding in a Sunday afternoon easy ride moving forward. So that one's just going to be, yeah, just literally only there for recovery purposes, just to pump some blood through my legs after doing quite a long ride on the Sunday. But yeah, that's basically it for the week. So totals out now on the bike, 454 kilometers, swimming 18.3 kilometers, and running 66 kilometers. So conversions to miles and all that'll be all the bike mileage was done on the trainer though, so let's call that one 13.5 hours on the bike, 5 hours in the pool, and 5.5 hours of running. So pretty good volume, and I'm pretty happy with that kind of quality that I've been able to put in there. And I mean, looking at my, you know, just the Strava profile here, I'm fairly happy with the amount of consistency that I've got in there, particularly on the ride and the swim. The run is kind of does look a bit like that Patagonia logo where it's up and down quite a lot, but I'm not too stressed about the run. It's really the ride and the swim that I'm trying to work on a lot at the moment. And I think having my mileage up above the 350 kilometer mark now for a few weeks in a row is paying off, and it's the first time since I've started the training log where I'm actually feeling like I'm getting quite a bit stronger on the bike. So yeah, that wraps up the 2 weeks now. Pretty happy with those 2 weeks of training. For a recovery week, we still got in a fair bit of volume, and then the quality in the second week there was fairly high. You know, I got in some good rides, good swims, good runs. So all in all, pretty happy to put in those 2 weeks of training. Going forwards now, next week's and probably my last big solid week, and it'll finish out with that Sebastian Kienle Ironman specific workout from the How They Train podcast. And then the week after that, we sort of start the taper, but it'll still have some quality in there. I think the key session that week on Saturday, we'll do a 100-kilometer time trial on the bike. Then we'll do a pretty standard taper going into the week of that indoor Ironman. So I think I'll do that one on the Saturday. Just gonna be a pool swim, trainer ride, treadmill run. It's hard to say what my goal times are, and they're kind of irrelevant. Mainly because on the bike, you know, it's not really me controlling the speed. It's just, I just push the power and, you know, the trainer like tells what the speed is. It's not the most accurate representation of what I would be doing out on the road. So it's more just gonna be, let's say it's around 5.5 hours, right? What's my average power? That's the main thing I'm gonna look at. Average speed on the run and average time in the pool. They're the main things I'm looking at, try and capture as much data as possible. And then that way I can repeat that, you know, a few times throughout my sort of training. And yeah, just really track improvements through that. It will be a bit of a drag doing it all indoors, but you know, I do a lot of training indoors, so I'm not too worried about doing a whole Ironman indoors. And I feel like I'm in fairly decent enough shape now that, you know, I might as well do an Ironman and then I can get back and figure out where I'm at the moment, really use it to benchmark my current fitness levels and know exactly what I need to work on moving into May next year for Ironman Australia. So yeah, all caught up on the training logs now. The next 2 videos will have the Sebastian Kienle workout, the 100K time trial, then the indoor Ironman, and then I'm thinking of doing some more, you know, fun, longer workouts over that December, Christmas period, and then we really hone back into that Ironman specific build, probably around January.